Many filmmakers are talking about getting the film look. Today I will show you the probably easiest way to get the film look. So in my opinion the film look is pretty awesome. I've seen many music videos that use the film emulation to get the film look and it makes it look extremely cool. So now we are in Davinci Resolve and as you can see I've got some footage in here. It's also from different cameras. So this is from the Panasonic G7, this is from the Sony ZV-E10 and HLG3 and this is iPhone footage. Then we got some Sony ZV-E10 footage with picture profile off. So let's start by going to the color tab. So when you installed Dehancer, you can just drag it in here on your node. If you want to make any adjustments like white balance or exposure adjustments with the primary wheels, you should make a new node before that and make your adjustments here. But you can also make exposure and temperature adjustments inside of Dehancer, so that's pretty good. So when you drop Dehancer on it, you can see the look changes, it gives it the film look. But we want to make some adjustments, of course. So with the Panasonic G7, I shot in a natural picture profile, which is like Rec 709, so we leave it at Rec 709. Of course, if you want to, you can make some adjustments here like temperature or tint, but before I make some adjustments here, we want to change the film. And as you can see, you've got a lot of options in here. There's almost anything in here, so that's pretty cool. You've got a lot of options and different looks. And I think for this one we choose Sinister 800T, and we can push and pull it until we like it. I think that looks pretty good. Now we go to film compression. And film compression compresses the highlights so that you get a softer highlight roll-off like what you get with real film, so that's pretty cool. You can also adjust the range it affects. On the scopes you can see when I increase the tonal range, it affects even more. But for this shot I want to go back a bit. Then we go to print and you could leave it at linear, but you could also choose something like the Kodak 2383 or Fujifilm 3513. So this is what it looks like with Kodak 2383 and that looks pretty cool. But I want to see how the Fujifilm one looks like. Also pretty cool. Now we can make some adjustments, like if you want to increase the contrast, you just pull the tonal contrast slider and now we have more contrast. What I really like about Dehancer is that we got a color density slider, so we can increase that if we want to, and it looks pretty cool. We can't see it that much on this shot because we don't got a lot of colors in here, but when you got a colorful shot you can definitely see it. And we got the color head feature, which is pretty much printer lights. So when we enable it and go to yellow, for example, it makes the image more yellow, or if we want to go to blue. So if you want to make some adjustments in here, you can do that. But for now, I would turn it off. Then we got film grain. In my opinion, the Dehancer film grain looks better than the Davinci Resolve one, and I would just leave it like that. But if you want to make some adjustments, you've got the options to do it here. You can also change the film type to positive if you want to, so that option is also there. Then we got halation, and it's not that strong, but if you want to make it stronger, I would just pull up the amplify. But for now we pull it down a bit so it's not too strong, so that we only got a little bit of halation. Then we got the bloom feature, and bloom is pretty strong, so I would pull it down a bit so it's more gentle, but it's also cool to have bloom. Then we also got the options to add a vignette, film brief and gate weave. So as you can see, you've got a lot of options. It's pretty easy to use, but at the beginning you have to find out what all the sliders are doing. But once you found it out, it's pretty easy to use in my opinion. So I want to make some adjustments to my temperature, so I'm gonna do that in here. And now we can copy this grade by clicking on the clip and then pressing Command C. With Command V we can add it in here, and it's also doing a lot. I would maybe increase the film compression a bit so that we got better highlight roll-off maybe, but not too strong. And then we increase the contrast a bit so that it looks more contrasty. And we can also increase the color density. When we pull it all the way to the left, it's like a negative film. When we pull it all the way to the right, it's like a positive film. I like the look when it's all the way to the right, so it's at 100. So I would copy this grade again and paste it on here. And now we want to make more adjustments. We can also use a different film stock this time. But before I do that, I want to reset almost everything. And Kodak Portra 800 looks pretty cool in my opinion, so we want to use that and play around with the push and pull slider a bit. I think that looks pretty cool. Now I want to see which one of these look the best. I think the Kodak one looks the best. Now we increase the tonal contrast and increase the color density. Now you can see it a little bit more, how it affects the image. You can also try this out. That also looks pretty cool, so I want to use that. Now we maybe pull up the halation a bit, so with amplify, make it a little bit stronger, and maybe play around a little bit with the bloom. We could even go back to the edit page and crop it left and right so that it looks more like a real authentic film. So now I want to try it out on iPhone footage, but this was shot with HDR on, so we have to convert it first. We could convert it by using the color space transform, or we could go to our color management and choose DaVinci White RGB color managed. So in this case I want to do it that way. You could also work in DaVinci White Gamut or in Aces with Dehancer. So for that you would set it here to DaVinci White Gamut, but in this case we already converted it to Rec 709 with color managed. And we're still working in Rec 709, so I would leave it like that. But before we use Dehancer on iPhone footage, I want to make some adjustments with the curves because it's pretty bright, and maybe add some contrast a bit. That looks pretty good in my opinion. And now we can go back to Dehancer and activate it again. I think in this case I would leave it at Kodak Vision 3 250D. Try out the push and pull again. I pull it up a bit. Then we go to film compression, enable it. With the impact slider you can choose how much it affects the image. When I pull it all the way here it's not doing anything, but when we increase the impact, it's 100, it affects the image at 100%. I think in this case I would leave it at 40. Now we can go to print and I would increase the tonal contrast, and then we can choose something like the Fujifilm one. That looks extremely good. Now I want to play around with the color density, and I think that looks pretty good. And I want to enable halation. Maybe pull it back a bit. This time with the impact slider again. 40 looks good. Then I want to enable bloom, but pull it back of course. Then I want to enable the vignette. That makes a huge difference in my opinion. Yeah, this is what iPhone footage with Dehancer looks like. Now we go to this footage I shot a few weeks ago. And we add Dehancer again, and this was shot in Rec 709. Now I want to see which film stock I want to use. I think Sinister 800T looks good on that. Then I want to enable film compression, increase the tonal range a bit. And for print I want to use Fujifilm again, because that looks pretty cool. It gives that extremely teal and orange look, which I like a lot. We play around with the exposure a bit, and with tonal contrast, and with the color density, and you can see how deep the reds get. Now I want to enable halation again, want to play around with it. Okay, you can see halation that good in this case. And then I want to enable bloom, and now that makes a huge difference. Then I want to enable the vignette, and I think that's it. That looks pretty good in my opinion. So that's before and that's after, and as you can see it makes a huge difference. If you want, you can also add the cropping again. So for that we go 200 on crop left and crop right. So as you can see, you can do a lot with Dehancer. You've got a lot of options and it's pretty easy to use in my opinion, once you know how to use the sliders. But for that I also got a quick guide on their page, so you might want to take a look on that. So Dehancer also got an iOS app that also works with iPads and Macs, and in this app you can choose presets, and that's good for beginners and it's even faster to use. Maybe that's also something that they could put inside of this version. Since I work with Dehancer, you can use my promo code for 10% off if you want to get Dehancer. Link is in the description. So thanks to the Dehancer team for working with me, and thank you guys for watching, and see you guys in the next video.